You are the prince of process patents, among many other things. Is there a way, do you think, to develop a process that you could patent for philanthropy?
No, I don't think you'd want to own a process in philanthropy. You know, if you and I were to figure out a way to separate some chemical agent from its surrounding environment, we might say that's a commercial activity and let's do that. If we were to figure out a way to sell more hamburgers or do something that was clearly commercial, we would certainly want to derive the financial benefits of that. If you and I could figure out a way to develop business processes that made nonprofit organizations more successful, I doubt we would sit around and think about owning that process. We'd be more likely to be excited about just getting people to use it than we were to worry about extracting a commercial rent from it. And I think that's true for most activities. You know, like all of us, we do many things for which we expect no commercial return because the return is much more social or important to us. People who serve in the government often do not expect much in the way of commercial return at a certain stage in life. I'm not talking about regular employees. So, you know, as a business system inventor, I look at the nonprofit space as a space that is in desperate need of system reinvention, and we heard it today in several of the panel discussions. So sort of a need to reintegrate better systems and better processes, far more efficient, far more feedback driven, far more rapid in their ability to respond to environments.
Is there anyone, philanthropist today, whom you admire above all others?
You know, I don't. We all have feet of clay, and those people who want to make heroes out of others and objectify them as deities are almost always disappointed, at least in the Greek way of looking at it. So I try not to fall in that trap. However, there are many character traits of dozens of highly successful philanthropists that I do admire, and I doubt they'd be any different than the ones you admire. I tend to admire traits in people or accomplishments of people as opposed to the deity themselves. We're all human.
In giving over the years, are there particular things that you have learned, maybe mistakes that you've made that you would counsel others to avoid?
I think all I've done is make mistakes, so I don't know that you pointed too many successes. So, counsel. Yeah, I think my primary counsel would be to recognize the power of evolution. Most people think of evolution as this abstract concept that occurs in biology, and nothing could be further from the truth. All systems evolve. When we look at the social systems or the commercial systems or even the family systems we have in our world today, they're highly evolved systems. And philanthropists tend to look for magic bullets or look for solutions as if you could walk into a forest and somehow fix something in a forest. Of course, for those of us that know a little bit about evolutionary biology, we recognize these complex systems have adapted over extraordinary periods of time with extraordinary subtlety. And the people who are best typically recognize at their very core that they don't have any answers at all, and that at a good day they might even have only one or two good questions. And if you walk into a forest, you know, you're suddenly faced with questions. If I were to tell you that this forest was dysfunctional in some critical way, you wouldn't just start chopping down trees or spraying pesticides or maybe growing a crop or changing the course of a river or damming something. You would recognize, no, this forest is a complex adaptive ecosystem. Well, most of the problems we face in the world today are just like that. And yet very few of us look at it that way. And as a result, we waste a great degree of energy and resources thinking that if only I were to do this, I could fix that. I think Oprah talked a little bit about it this morning when she talked about this endless series of failures she did because she didn't even appreciate that the results that she was seeing were driven 3 or 4 or 5 levels down in much deeper root systems that are creating these emergent properties. Philanthropists, of course, are almost always, without exception, well-meaning people or organizations, but well-meaning when it comes to understanding evolutionary systems is really not very helpful. It's certainly nice, but not very helpful. We need a humility and a real appreciation of the complex adaptive nature of the problems we face if we as philanthropists want to possibly start changing the underlying factors that are driving the systems we see.
What prompted you to get involved in giving at first?
I think all people give based on a value set. I'm assuming they're not, they're not egotistically driven. Assuming that there's not some personality disorder. I think there's plenty of giving that's driven by personality disorder, and that's very nice, but not very helpful. But I think the vast majority of giving is not, especially in America, a society of givers. There's not a personality disorder issue. It's a social, cultural issue. You're raised in a family for which values of giving are part of the values of the family. That can come from your faith, your religious faith. It can come from the role models of your parents who clearly demonstrated giving as a part of their lives, or your grandparents as their lives. Giving is a learned action. I think humans are basically generous at their core, but I think giving is a learned skill. And if you have role models who are giving people, and they can be family, they can be religious, they can be corporate, they can be teachers. Most people saw a teacher in their lives who gave to them, and they felt passing it forward was the honest and honorable thing to do. I don't think I'm any different in that.